Our desire to stay informed is at direct odds with our desire to be sane. Don't let anyone distract you. It is black or white. We either support the Constitution or we don't.
Hope is like the feeling that drives you to action. Motivation is a thing that flips on your discipline switch.
Fast wins. Smart doesn't always win. And so what's happening is the bad guys are fast right now.
Oh, yeah.
The people who are disobeying and trampling the Constitution are fast. The thing about hope, and the reason I'm so passionate about it, is that hope actually rewires your brain. When we rise above, when we make these choices, it actually activates different parts of our brain that enable us to see farther, to be more resilient. Rest is hope. Art is hope. Music is hope. It's also a form of resistance. Hopeful resistance is we don't have to carry the weight of the dead. Okay,
Right.
That's the MAGA. Your job is not to try and convert the MAGA.
The everyday interactions I have with people that disagree with me politically are very civil. I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I know a lot of the guys that I train with, we disagree politically. I think what's important is that we agree morally.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Hopeful Resistance. My name is Sarah, and this is Erin, and we are delighted that you've joined us today. If you want to find out a little bit more about us, go to our first episode where we describe who we are and why we're here. So, Erin, whatever shall we talk about today?
I don't know. There's so much. There are so many things that we could talk about. A lot. I mean, it was just like, where to begin?
For anybody tuning in, it's Saturday, February the 8th when we record this. And so this week has been, depending on your point of view, from our point of view, a little bit of a shit show.
Yeah. What really helped me, and I know I think you're going to throw this into the video description, but it's that what the fuck just happened today.com website where it talks about all the stuff that happened. And I sent that to another friend of mine, and he's like, I actually really like this because it has multiple sources for everything that it talks about, like credible sources for everything that it talks about. Because I like Associated Press mostly because I feel like it's unbiased reporting. But
well, and I think it's important. I mean, again, the name of the show is Hopeful Resistance, and what we're trying to do is help people stay grounded and informed, because as the meme suggests, our desire to stay informed is at direct odds with our desire to be sane. So yeah, we'll put the link, all the things that we talk about today, resistance tools, action items, all that stuff, people to follow. I finally got us approved to put links in the description, so I'm going to provide all that. So I guess since you're at a bit of a loss, I'm going to toss something out there, and it's really important for anyone who's watching to understand that we're wrestling just like y'all are. We're wrestling through this just like y'all are. But what we're trying to do is stay hopeful and sane. So this week, a big thing has been constitutionality. The reason I'm bringing it up is to not go into a deep dive about what's constitutional, but Erin and I both experienced this. When you're talking to somebody about the unconstitutionality of some of the actions that are taking place this week, you're going to find that people are going to come back and say, but what if in this situation, or in one of our discussions about the military, well, your average military person doesn't understand the Constitution. That is a dodge. That's a pivot.
For sure. That's made that whole conversation, I think, so frustrating.
The tool is, but do you believe that we must, not would it be nice, we must follow the Constitution? That is a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Do not let anyone distract you. It is black or white. We either support the Constitution or we don't.
That's you hit it on the head. I feel like whenever that we were having that conversation, that was what I mean. I got to the point where I was just asking it straight out, like, do you or do you not think that service members should follow orders that are against the Constitution? Like, it's like, to me, it's that was like the most direct way of engaging. And I think what You helped me this week because you were like, you got to learn when to let go. Okay, we talk about stop reacting. I can promise you, all of you, that I drill these people. The friend of mine that we talked about this week, one thing that he gave me whenever he was talking about what he believes hope is, that hope is like the feeling that drives you to action, right? And so I was like, yeah, I mean, that for me, that's what it is too. But that's why I think I try to drill these people so hard, is because like I want them to either be based and stand and say, yes, I believe that. So that way other people can see what kind of person they are. Or I want them to just at some point, not, they're never going to do it in the middle of the discussion, but at some point to say, okay, I was wrong.
I
So
think let's take it a step further. Both have had conversations with people this week. Some of the discussions I've had where I asked that question, do you think it's okay to not obey the Constitution? And the answer was, you can't convince me. These are like quotes. You can't convince me that what is happening is not a good thing. And at this point you realize you're never going to get an
my
answer.
friends
That
hate
is, no, I don't think the Constitution is a big
my
deal.
friends hate when I say this, but based, I mean, we talked about what that word means. And for
But
anyone who doesn't know what it means, it's basically like standing on a feeling or opinion that you have that is unpopular. Whether or not that opinion is a morally good or bad thing is not a part of what that means. I just want to be clear on like
well,
when I
and
use that word.
let's apply that to the hopeful resistance. Okay. We have to know what we believe. Part
Right.
of our outrage needs to be, we're not following the Constitution, but it's exhausting. And that's the other thing I think is important, that we acknowledge that this is going according to plan. Steve Bannon talked about it before he got outed.
Muzzle velocity.
Yeah, right? Muzzle Velocity. Oh, that Eric Klein video. I need to put that. I think his name's Eric Klein.
Yeah, I shared that around with some of my friends, some of my less hopeful friends. I dropped it into one of my friends' Discord servers where we have a political channel and we go back and forth sometimes. But it was basically that video. And the response was more or less like people blowing it off in the sense that they're like, yeah, it is bad. It is. It's all really bad right now. So what if it's not that bad? Like, okay,
Okay, so
I
their response to the "Don't Believe Him" video was, "You're, yeah, yeah, that's nice, but it really is really bad."
yeah, it really is bad. And
Okay.
that's what I mean. Is and when I say less hopeful friends, that's what I mean. Is like I think it's really difficult for them to not go like doomer mode and be like, we are so cooked.
About it though, hope is hard, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna push back on what you said, and I think you said your friend actually said it. I don't believe hope is a feeling. Hope shouldn't be a feeling, because I don't feel hopeful. That's wish. I wish everything turns out. Or maybe, I mean, we're into semantics here to a certain
Yeah.
degree. Hope
Because
is great. Okay, let me make it like this. Discipline versus motivation. I don't feel like working out. I am not motivated to go to the gym. I'm not motivated to do my walk in the morning, but I'm disciplining myself to do it, which the discipline is the action. So with hope, if I go by how I feel based on this shit show of a week, I feel hopeful when we have a win in the courts. And then when they ignore the win, I feel despair. So, I mean,
yeah,
how do you sustain hope? If hope is my feeling, how do I sustain it when I'm like this roller coaster thing?
well, I think it's because in my head, my hopefulness is more like out, because we talked about this before. I do think it's a feeling. I think much like I think it's a more of a feeling, like discipline is a feeling than it is like motivation is a feeling. Just if that makes sense, right? I would say probably a better way, because you did the discipline comparison. I really love whenever that topic. I love that if you've seen a little meme where it's like two little bubbles, it's like a guy and he's like, what people think motivation is, and it's like motivation is like this big thing, and it like, or it's like, come on, you can do it, but really motivation is a thing that flips on your discipline switch, and then discipline carries you and says you
Yeah, okay,
will
I
do
like
it.
that. Well,
So
okay, so
it's
yes, hope is what
hope
flips
would be
the
flips a
switch.
switch.
I like that. No, yeah, I can agree with that. And if anybody's, I mean, I know we have people viewing these videos right now, but I'd love to hear what you think about hope. Or I'd also like to hear, how are you keeping hope alive where you're at? Because part of hope, and I'm going to post this on the description page as well, we have a feeling wheel. I'm a behaviorist, so I talk a lot about emotional intelligence. And part of surviving this is that we have to recognize what we're feeling. I mean, maybe you just feel just mad as hell, but it's because you're scared. Or you're mad as hell because you feel betrayed, or fill in the blank. We're all over the
Yeah.
board with our feels right now. So we've got to cope.
It's just me. There's so much. There's so much.
Well, and let's also bear in mind, I I think the 75 million of us who voted for Harris, we knew when the loss occurred, whether legitimate loss or manufactured loss, it's still a loss. When that occurred, we knew it was going to be bad, but I swear on baby Jesus, I did not know it was going to be like this.
Yeah, and this to bring it back around to what I was talking about as well is like what I told my friends. I said it follows that thing that Steve Bannon said, which is the rapid fire, the muzzle velocity of just constantly doing something. And that's why we talk about stop reacting, to shock and awe. We talked about all this stuff in other episodes. And one of the things that I pointed out to my friends is that like in Trump's first term, he actually didn't get, I'm pretty sure, anything that he ran on building a wall. They didn't, and that Mexico was going to pay for it. Remember that? Mexico will pay for it.
Yeah.
Mexico did not pay for a wall, and they didn't build one. Okay. They built some fencing. They did some things at the border, but they didn't build no dang wall. Okay. The other thing was he was going to get rid of 88. Now he says, I never said that. Okay. You said it.
Okay, never mind these multiple videos, but
yes, they put up like one bill, I think, and then it died on the.
So I think, but here's the difference. I don't think he knew what he was doing then.
Yeah, that is probably where I think a lot why this time I would say it's worse, because now
he understands how the business works, right?
Yeah, and he surrounded himself with sycophants that will
and
do whatever he says. So
I'm going to toss out two ideas. We are not Democrats, liberals, however you want to quantify us versus them. We are not in power, but we are not powerless. And it is that sense of a lack of power that I'm getting, the messages that I get on a regular basis. I feel hopeless. I feel helpless. You've got friends your age. Man, it's over. We're doomed. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Part of that is we don't understand how to harness the power that we do have available. I mean, The thing I keep saying is the first three words of the preamble to the Constitution is we the people, and we are the people. So the thing, like so many things this week, the thing I think is important to remember, I'm going to say this and then we may have to edit it out if you think like wrong. As a behaviorist, fast wins, smart doesn't always win. And so what's happening is the bad guys are fast right now.
Oh, yeah.
The people who are disobeying and trampling the Constitution are fast. The people who are dismantling the systems and the programs, processes, procedures of the US government are fast. They're not necessarily smart, other than that they know to move fast. So I think the thing that we have to recognize is we need to pick up the pace a little bit.
Well, yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think it's also worth noting that whenever these fast moves happen and then people go, holy fuck, that's illegal as hell. It goes back to the thing we've said before, is that the government is also slow in its response. Yeah. But I think we've also talked about, while that does suck, it has its upsides. Usually the upside is that it makes it really hard for things to change rapidly, which we don't necessarily want the government to be able to change things instantly, or all the stuff they were doing would be happening.
Fact, I'm going to see if I can find this, because I posted this and I'll put a link. If you're watching the show and you don't listen or read Heather Cox Richardson's, what's that called? Blog, I guess.
Yeah.
She shared a quote from a Maine senator, a senator from Maine, I guess.
Senator from Maine. That's what I thought you meant. I'll admit, my brain at first was like, Maine. Oh yeah, like the state.
Yeah, the state.
I was like, who are the Maine senators today? Start Googling.
Yeah, well, they've restructured the government. Why you're sleeping?
Yes, we have Maine senators now. They're the ones that get to.
Everything is different now. So
man,
the senator from Maine basically what he said, that I'm just reading it. The cumbersomeness and slowness and clumsiness that is built into our system is because it's designed to operate it that way. Because no one person should or group of people should have all the power. That's why it's
Yes.
divided into all these groups. So on that note, if you agree that now is a good time, I would like to share some wins that have occurred this
Yeah, absolutely. That is where I think people will find their hope. Yeah, like really
week.
feel it a little bit.
Yeah, these are big wins too.
Yeah.
And this is from a Threads account that I follow called the everydayactivist.co. They don't have a website, but they're
Right.
on Instagram and Threads under that name. So there were judicial blocks on Trump's executive actions this week, and this was just posted 2 hours ago. So multiple federal judges halted the birthright citizenship order, which has been, it's a preliminary permanent injunction because it violates the 14th Amendment. They have been blocked from continuing to dismantle the USAID.
Yeah, that was a big one.
That was a big one. And I've got to be honest, and I don't know how much pushback I'm going to get on this. White House press secretary, I don't have a problem with there being a trans musical. What is problematic for me is the focus is on the $42,000 grant to have a trans musical. When, if you will think for a moment, the US budget, if we're talking about $42,000, that's like 42 cents. Okay, that's the press secretary said, oh, there's this horrible expenditure of 40-some thousand dollars for this musical.
Which I was actually just about to say, I'm like, $42,000 in the United States budget.
In the United States budget, it's like 42 cents. It's actually probably like a nickel.
Yeah,
and
it's so little.
Let me say, the examples that are being used for a reason. They're to incite, they're to upset. What they're not mentioning is the food that's being sent. Yes, condoms are being sent to a country that is riddled with AIDS. And it isn't Gaza, as you think of Gaza by Israel. It's Gaza in Africa. There's more than one place that has a name, but they've capitalized on these emotional things.
And I imagine, because this is another point that actually lets me hit on two things. One, when I talk about MAGA, I'm not talking about people that voted for Trump. I'm not talking about Republicans in general.
Yeah.
I am talking about the people that I see on YouTube, like people Luke Beasley goes to interview, that are traveling around the country going to every rally. They are like fully dressed up in Trump. Like those are the people that I'm like, they're the extreme
Here's
cultists.
the thing. I've got to be honest, and this is what I'm telling anybody, because there's a lot of remorse out there right now.
Yeah.
I don't give two flips about MAGAs. If you are a Trumper, if you think he's God's gift, you know what? You do you. Stay as far as possible away from me. I send you much love and light, but you need to stay away from me. But
yes.
They're just, if you're watching this, stop A, reacting to them, B, trying to proselytize or convince them that they're wrong, because you can't talk them out of what they believe.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is no, like the press secretary gets up there, she says these things. We, as moderates or liberals, or how, if you disagree with the stances, it can trigger you. It can get you upset. But that's because it's not true. But the extreme base, you're never going to convince them that it's not a problem.
No, and so that's not our, I mean, this whole hopeful resistance thing, it's not about trying to convince people who are sold. Like, just stop it.
It's to give you hope that there are people that aren't that. There are people
75 million of us, and I think it's growing.
Yeah.
And I want to give some examples, because I also think part of hopeful.
And you should go through the rest of your wins. Like I don't know if you finished reading that Threads post about our wins this week. We went on a tangent. you could tell the apple didn't fall far from the tree.
Right. I mean, this is why, for those of you who are watching, when Aaron and I were talking about should we do this together, I can talk for 30 minutes about a pencil, And Aaron can start talking about a pencil, and in 30 minutes, he's going to be talking about the Atlantic Ocean. So
We're gonna be talking about
it's like,
totally different thing.
right? This
I did
total
remember my meds today though. So
Hey, that's right. And we are all about better living through chemistry. So let me talk about something real quick, because one of our folks who we love it when y'all give us feedback, and one of the people who has been watching our growth here made the point that it'd be nice if we explained why hope matters. So this is my bailiwick, or my wheelhouse. Is that what you call it, Aaron? Your
yeah,
wheelhouse?
your wheelhouse,
This is my wheelhouse.
right up your alley. I mean, there's
Right up my alley. So
so many good
the thing
descriptors.
about hope, and the reason I'm so passionate about it, is that hope actually rewires your brain. When we rise above, when we make these choices, it actually activates different parts of our brain that enable us to, I mean, this sounds salesy, but it enables you to see farther, to be more resilient. It enables you to recognize the impermanence of things. We want you to see things as they are. Hope gives you the mental capacity to say, okay, well, so how do I get from here to there? And we're not saying that we want you to use hope as this tool to shoot up high, get high on, oh, everything's gonna be.
That's
It's
what
not that at all.
I would say. It can be. It can make you feel better, but don't. Whenever it doesn't make you feel better, don't lose hope. Would that be a good way to?
Yes, and part of
Go
emotional
ahead.
intelligence is to recognize what we're feeling. And I am going to post a feeling wheel. Dr. Gloria Wilcox created a feeling wheel, because this week, the batshit craziness of this week, even, I mean, I'm pretty level, but this week has just been a crazy roller coaster.
It has been. This
You're
is one of the first weeks I think where in a while where I had to put it all down. Just put everything down. Go play games with my friends. Spend time with my kids.
I need to look around and
Yeah.
see. I mean, and that's part of hope. Rest is hope. Refreshing yourself is hope. Art is hope. Music is hope. It's also a form of resistance. So, the thing about emotional intelligence and hope is that we have to recognize that our feelings are valid, and what we feel isn't always reflective of what is real.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, I feel hopeless right now. Does that mean it's hopeless? It is hopeless? No, it just means I
No.
feel hopeless. Why do I feel hopeless? Well, if I go through the drill, well, I don't feel like I can do anything. Well, okay, then you address that. Why do I feel hopeless? Because I'm scared as shit that they're going to take my money. Okay, how can I manage that? Again, hope rewires our brain. Hope, being hopeful, helps us spur us to action. It also, I think, can connect us with like-minded people. Therein lies the biggest thing that came out of this week, are the number of messages I got. I'm gonna even see if I can find one, and I'm gonna try and read it in such a way that you can't tell who sent it.
Okay.
But this individual was, she was explaining, and I get a lot of these messages. She's explaining about how the people she works with who voted for Trump are like, everybody's quiet right now because their mom's SNAP benefits are in jeopardy, or their neighbor that they liked so much lost their job because of the tariffs or whatever.
Who is that? You might remember her. She was an Olympic swimmer or college swimmer who was upset about that really big trans athlete. And I can't remember her name at the moment. Her husband is an immigrant who was here.
Yeah,
Yes.
got
And then
deported.
he or is going, I don't think he has yet, is going to
Okay.
get deported. But and then she went, I just thought it was just one of those. I don't mean even mean to sound mean, but it is one of those like, I mean, he said that's what he was gonna do.
Well, this is
I'm so
exactly,
sorry that you're for you, but
you're
like,
you're
sorry.
living the consequences of your
Yeah.
decisions.
And
Well, and that's what I'm sharing right now, is like,
yeah.
this woman says a guy that she works with just lost some funding for a grant that was going to help him do something in the community. He
Mhm.
voted for Trump, and he just lost this big grant.
Man. And
Um,
that's
there's people who are losing their jobs because their companies, I mean, blah, 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 the list goes on. The point is, we're struggling. Those of us who are trying to be hopeful are struggling with our fears then I don't want to be the I told you so person right now. That I get
Right.
joy out of that. I gotta tell you, this is the suckiest I told you so in the history of I told you so's.
I was talking to my friend about this. I do empathize with these people that supported Trump. What I don't empathize is at the time their lack of empathy for the people that were going to be affected. Because in their mind, it was,
Okay.
oh yeah, Trump's going to do those things.
Won't
They're
hurt
not
me.
going to affect me. Yeah, it's not going to hurt me. I want him to do those things because those things are going to be good for everybody and it won't hurt me. And now they're feeling the hurt that all that I feel like the rest of us were worried about. And it's like, I'm
Well,
sorry.
it's sadistic at the worst level,
Yeah.
and it's mean. And so let me address that, because that was a question that somebody messaged me about. Is I want to see if I can find it, because here's the thing. I
Yeah.
want you guys to know that we're actually listening, that if you are going to send us a message on any platform that
Oh, and shout out to mom because she stays on top of all that. She comes back. We'll go back and forth sometimes, but mom is like, yeah,
I'm
she's the
what did
champion
you
of these
call
things.
me? Mom bomb.
The mom bomb.
I'm the
Yeah.
mom bomb.
My if any of my friends watch this, you'll remember that mom bomb.
Yes. So the big thing for me is, and I'm never going to find it. Someone said that they were upset because one of their friends actually came to them who lost a job, or they're just
Mm.
totally, all of a sudden the light came on, like, oh my God, this is really a bad thing. Here it is right here. Y'all, well, I swear to you.
I believe in you.
Right? Oh, here it is. How are y'all handling a MAGA friend who sees the light? Because while I love a good redemption story, I'm not feeling very gracious. And that's,
Right.
I've had people come into my messages like, oh, well, I didn't think it would impact me, or my husband lost their job, or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So my thing is just basically, we have got to lay the responsibility back at their feet. It's not any of our jobs to hold their hands while they try and fix the damage that they caused. So
Right.
that's why if when we are in the description section, we are listing all these action items, resist bot and 5 calls and everyday activist, because if you're getting these remorseful people, your job, you don't, I would say, to Aaron's point, I don't feel sympathy or empathy.
Yeah.
I'm having a real
I
hard time feeling anything.
I would say so for me it's like it's one of those things where it's like I don't feel bad for you, but if you want to do something, there are things like you should hop on the not for lack of a better term, hop on the bandwagon with us. We
Yeah.
could like there is a path to you having your voice heard. And if you feel like okay, it's like this. If you voted for this and now you're feeling the hurt from it, I don't feel bad that you're feeling the hurt, but if you want to do something,
I think they have a greater
here's
responsibility.
yeah, actually, that's probably yeah. Actually, yeah, yes. Sorry, I was gonna say exactly. My brain exploded. Yes, exactly that. That is
I
exactly what.
watched that explosion
Yeah,
occur.
I was just like, damn, that's perfect.
Well, and
Yeah.
let's talk about
Because
this.
if we're
Part
doing
of hopeful resistance is we don't have to carry the weight of the dead. Okay,
right,
that's the MAGA. Your job is not to try and convert the MAGA. Your job is not to even really hold hands of the people who are feeling remorseful right now. Point them at some of these other places, because I think the bulk of the responsibility falls at their feet. Aaron, tell me if you agree with this analogy. There are several movies. Lord of the Rings is what comes to mind. The tree herders didn't want to get involved in the War of Man until
yeah.
man wiped out one of their forests, and then all of a sudden they're like,
So just to be fair, and this is so nerdy of me, Saruman is not a man. So
sorry.
he was a wizard.
So
So
the wizard, sorry for all of you Lord of the Rings people. The
go
Ent
for it.
did not want to get involved. They said, nah, it's not our problem.
Yes.
And that's all the people who laid back and either didn't vote or who protest voted or whatever. They're like, meh. And then, but here's the good news, they came and saved the day.
It just popped in my head to your point, to your initial point of them like having a greater responsibility. I'm still stuck on that. That was just like that. That's so true.
Well, it is. And I think we have to stay focused on that. So many things. We have a list, right?
Yeah, we do. What's it?
Talked
It
about constitutionality. We talked about the benefits of hope and emotional intelligence. We did go through some of the wins. Action items.
So, ooh, I actually hopped on that to the exact same response. Remember, I told you I sent the video, and my friends were basically, they're not feeling very hopeful right now. And I ended that, and my entire response to them was, is all this infuriating? Yeah, it's infuriating as hell. But you got to understand that's why we need to keep pushing back. You need to be calling representatives. You
Right.
need to be, if you have the availability and ability to protest, go. Here where I live, I see updates all the time on like where like there are protests you can go
Oh,
to
yeah.
that are talking about these issues.
That's the other thing. Oh, and another thing. The hopeful resistance is not being covered in the media. There were protests in all 50 states this week.
Yeah.
But very few of them made the media, and they did in a negative light in many cases. So to your point, but I gotta ask this question. I don't want to go down without a fight. I mean, I'm 64 this year. I'm not gonna go toe to toe and fight the police physically because that's
Right.
not how I think this will be won. But I feel like there are many people who think there's nothing we can do. And I'm sad to hear that there's kids your age feeling that way. So that's why I'm not going down without a fight. Or at the very least, I'm not going down without having my voice heard.
Yeah. And that's to another point. I know some people that are like, well, I'm not going to call my representative. I live in a red area. If I call my representative, he's not going to care. And I'm
They
like,
have,
call him
yes,
anyway. Let him know that you are dissatisfied.
pick up the phone. And to that end, for action,
I would say email too. I mean,
do it
however,
all.
yeah,
Email,
do
write a
everything.
letter,
Yeah.
go to the office. Yes.
That's a part of that. Keep pushing back,
Yeah.
just,
Fivecalls.org, Everyday Activist, and ResistBot. We're going to have links to those. Fivecalls.org and ResistBot literally do 90% of the work. You pick the issue that you care about, you get the script from them, you tell them where you live, they give you the phone number of your representative. So, I mean, I think the phone system at the White House went down a couple times because there were like anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 calls a day.
hell yeah, blow them up. I mean, it's like, you've got to let them know that you're not happy. I had a friend of mine that he doesn't vote, but he protests because in his mind, protesting is more than voting. We talked,
I
yeah,
have never heard that. I gotta write that down.
I disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. His logic of protesting is they need to know that we're always standing outside. We're always outside the door. They need to know that we're there, that we're not happy. They need to know that. My thing on voting is I agree that they need to know that we're always outside the door. I would rather change who's behind the door. That's why I think voting is more important. Okay. I think they're both important. I think that voting, in my opinion, is more important, but I think that they're both like, it's what our democracy is built on.
Well, and again, I mean, we could have a whole show about the bifurcation of thought in the United States. It's come down to us versus them, right versus wrong. There are many things that Republicans believe that I have zero problem with. And I'd like to think there are many things that Democrats believe that Republicans fundamentally would not have a problem with. There are some fundamental moral differences in what we believe with some of the people who are in power right now. But we must remember that it isn't 100% us versus them. And that gives me hope that not only are there 75 million people who voted for Harris, but there's also probably, I'm going to be bold and say 10, 20 million people who maybe regret not voting or regret their vote.
Yeah, I would say that's probably fair. And I mean, this goes to the thing where that I think I try to talk about. I want to talk about more. The everyday interactions I have with people that disagree with me politically are very civil. I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I know a lot of the guys that I train with, we disagree politically. I think what's important is that we agree morally. We're morally aligned on what we think the country should be. So that's why I think I struggle with the more extreme side of the MAGA movement. But I think in general, most people are normal, moral people who want to live in a safe and free society.
So I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. I think you're exactly right. So let's summarize. We have covered constitutionality and pushback that you can give when people enter into that discussion. Aaron brought up some really good points about emotional intelligence and how people are feeling hopeless and we've got to do something. We did talk about the benefits of hope. We shared some wins today. Action items. I don't think we talked a lot about that, but someone came up with a really good idea for an action item that I hadn't thought about. Books to
Ooh.
be purchasing and sharing and reading banned books with your children, to be promoting the local library because we don't want the libraries to come under attack. And by promoting the library, go check out books.
I think I don't have my wallet in here, but I have a library card. Actually, hilariously, I have a library card for the Mansfield Library.
What? Well, I
Yeah,
would appreciate that. You should go
yeah.
to the Fort Worth Library. I have a friend who works there. I want to put out there for this hopeful resistance concept is
Oh,
go and find the voices of people that you believe are like-minded in terms of your moral values or who are coming up with action items on social media and share those. And you need to get with like-minded people, whether it's a reading, like that's why I say books, book club or walking club, or we've gotta bring back the human touch. So
yeah.
any closing thoughts, my dear?
More to that same point, a lot of the political channels that I promote, you can clearly subscribe to them, which gives them more visibility. And a lot of them have Patreons that you can support. They have some, YouTube does a thing now with partnerships where you can like join, you can like pay $5 a month or something to them.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is the same thing you're talking about. If you've got someone that you watch online and you agree with their views, find ways to support them so that way they can grow and become bigger and louder.
100%. So, all right. Well, thank you for joining us. And if you have ideas of things you want us to talk about or feedback on what we do talk about, we'd love to know. And until we get together again, bye for now.